opening address, Dr. Naledi Pandor. Currently South African Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Dr. Pandor became an MP in 1994 and has amassed impressive experience in positions of public office. She has held several ministerial positions since 2004, serving, among others, as Minister of Science and Technology, Minister of Home Affairs, and Minister of Higher Education and Training.
Allow me to begin by recognizing the really elegant and extremely talented program directors. They're really amazing. I wish I could look like that. And I wish to recognize Mr. Rakesh Wahi, the co-founder of the ABN Group, and Mrs. Salona Wahi, and all distinguished guests who join us today. I understand that we may have some members of the diplomatic corps that is representing various countries in our country, South Africa. So I welcome you, Your Excellencies, High Commissioners and Ambassadors. I understand we're joined by the Chairperson of the Industrial Development Corporation, Ms. Mabuza, and various leaders in business, government, and other sectors. Well, let me confess, it's been a really difficult few weeks for us in political executive positions, but here we are. Allow me to thank Forbes Africa for inviting me once more to speak at this exciting, vibrant, and since 2019, in-person 2023 Forbes Africa Leading Women's Summit. So not only are we here, but we survived. And we thank the good spirits for ensuring that we made it. I believe it's really wonderful to have such a diverse group of dynamic women present in one room, all sharing a commitment to gender equity and to creating a more inclusive society, because that's what your presence signifies. We have a number of really inspiring women present with us today. I was told, and I don't know whether this is right, that we will have with us in this lovely event South Africa's recent Grammy Award-winning artists, Vota Kalaman and Nomcebo Zigode, that we will have the Tunisian Pan-African activist Aya Chebi, that will have prominent speakers and guests from Nigeria all the way through to Kenya, Botswana, and Uganda. And that we will also host some of South Africa's most renowned business leaders. This is indeed an illustrious gathering, and it's absolutely wonderful that women in Africa have made such advances that they can gather as leading women in Africa, because that's what you are. Well, today, along with everyone all over the world, believe it or not, we have a WhatsApp group of women foreign affairs ministers. And the whole morning, we've been exchanging messages about International Women's Day. It's a day that is indeed marked internationally. Some may know that it's International Women's Day and it's 8th of March, but they may not know the background that lies behind this important day. Well, let me share with you. On this very day, 8th of March, in 1857, women in New York decided that they would engage in a peaceful protest march to highlight unfair working conditions and wages, as well as the unequal rights of women in the textile industry at that time in the United States of America. These women were fired upon, beaten, but they stood up for the rights of women. And it is because of them and many other trailblazers, including on our own continent, that we gathered here understand the need to promote and protect the rights of women and young girls in Africa as well as globally. Now, it's important to stress that while we gather as women leaders, women who have really, for many of you present here, broken the glass ceiling, it's imperative that we recognize that we must not rest on our laurels, that the struggle continues, and that what we need to do is to ensure that the victories won are sustained beyond our lifetime. And that is why I say we gather both to promote and protect the rights of women and young girls. There have been welcome advances, as your presence here indicates, but all of us know there's a great deal of work for all of us to do. One of the beauties of being young is you believe everything has been done. When you're successful at 35, you say to yourself, the world is my oyster. But there are many up and coming still to reach 35. And your task is not to rest on your laurels, but to ensure that the path for those who are 15 and 16 is cleared so that when they are 35, they will be the CEO. This is the task that we have before us. And what you must look at in the institutions in which you work, in the companies in which you lead, you should ensure that the path is cleared so that young women don't have to strive in the manner that older women or even women of your age in the 30s have had to struggle. Your presence means the path to leadership and success is eased because you recognize that you are not the end, you are a trailblazer, and the light you write is one of sustainable women leadership. That is the task that we have. So never relax. Continue to strive so that others may be where you are. But I always think it's important that we recognize progress and success. You know that as South Africans, we seem to have the brain part which speaks to worrying or depressing matters seems to have prominence over the part that speaks of positive issues. But it is important always to recognize where there has been progress. Because if you live on the basis that nothing has been achieved, you actually reduce the energy to strive. So it's always important to give recognition to advances. So let me speak of a few sectors where I believe there has been some progress. I think that the summit provides an excellent opportunity for all of us to recognize women who are making a difference in their organizations as well as in their communities. And of course, it creates a platform for us to advocate for women's social, economic, political, and cultural rights. All of us are familiar with the fact that as the world community, we are striving to achieve success with respect to the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. It is worrying that in Africa, we've not made significant progress on all the SDG goals, but there are some where we do see achievement. We have 7 years left, and so it is vital that in our various settings, we examine what we need to do in the 7 years to make sure we achieve the objectives of the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, Goal 5 on gender equity, gender equality, is extremely important for many of us and should be at the forefront of our efforts. What Goal 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals tells us is that the time has arrived for us to ensure the empowerment of girls and women everywhere in order to ensure that they reach their full potential. In South Africa, we've been fortunate in that the achievement of freedom and democracy has led to positive progress in a wide range of sectors. Of course, I know there are many doomsayers, even here among you, who'll say, no, Minister Pandor, you are wrong. South Africa has done badly. Well, I can tell you, if South Africa had not achieved freedom in 1994, if South Africa did not have a positive constitution with a Bill of Rights, we would only be gathered here in the tens and not in the hundreds. So we have made progress, and we must acknowledge that. Let me just talk about women in the workforce. Our statistics in South Africa indicate that women are now an increasingly significant presence in the workplace. In terms of recent statistics, women constitute 43.8% of the labor force in our country and are therefore making an important contribution to our economy. 43.8% is no mean number, and we need to put that statistic to good effect. We have seen increases in remuneration for some and greater access to improved work opportunities for many. This is largely due to the decrease in gender discrimination in our country. Yes, I know women don't get equal pay with everybody. Women do not get senior executive positions, but there has been a fundamental alteration from what we had 30 years ago. Of course, the changed conditions have led to this increased statistic and presence of women in the workforce in our country. But here are the worrying aspects, because I know you like worry. So let me present worry to you. Here are the worrying parts. Of that 43.8%, only 32% of employed women occupy a managerial position in South Africa. We can change this. And how can we change it? Well, remember I said 1857, 8th of March, women were on the streets fighting. We can make a change because today, as women, we can form a union. We can be active in the workplace. We can be activists. We can assert our rights, not wait and hope someone recognizes I'm an executive material. Women in our country work and are parts of unions. And in fact, the major federation of our country, COSATU, the largest union federation, is led by a woman president, Zingiswa Losi. So we can use the workplace as a site of change. Organized women have the potential to lead major campaigns for women's rights. You should be looking in your organization. If you are an activist committed to gender equality, don't just talk about it. Look in the workplace. The statistic I've mentioned, 43.8 in the workplace, 32% as managers. Can we change that 32% where I work? What are the numbers? What are the progression rates in my own setting? And if it is extremely difficult to act on your own, work with women in other institutions. But don't sit and wait, because one thing men are good at is not acting on your behalf as women. They won't act until you act. So organize and change your situation. What about women in decision-making? Well, it's been fairly challenging achieving gender equality in decision-making positions in our country, both in government as well as in the private sector. There's a new report that has just been produced by Statistics South Africa called Gender Series Volume 9, Women Empowerment, 2017-2022. It found that from 2004 to 2019, in a 15-year period, South Africa saw an increase in the proportion of seats held by women in the National Assembly of our Parliament, from 33% in 2004 to 46% in 2019. This remains the current proportion of women in our Parliament. So we're not yet at 50%, but we're getting there. Next year, 2024, ensure that it's 50%. And pleasingly, the report indicates that in South Africa, 50% of cabinet are female. This is incredible for any African country. Once more, we should not rest on our laurels. We must use this effectively to pursue a gender equality agenda. I've noticed that women are shy about asking political parties why they do not have representatives in the National Assembly or in the provincial legislature. We as women, if we're serious about gender equality, we should ask these questions. If a party has only 2 members in Parliament, one of those members must be women. You must make sure that it's that way, because you must publicly indicate your desire for gender equality. If you don't, you will be amazed one day that you'll have a 20% women president in cabinet, because reversals can happen. The most ancient democracies in our country, in our world rather, are among the worst at gender equality. So the more the democracy matures, the less attention there is to positive rights. So it's vital that you do not allow society to forget the desired outcome. And this is why I keep using the concept of being an activist constantly. My favorite domain is that of science and technology. In science, technology, and innovation in our country, women have shown incredible talent and leadership. For example, we have Professor Glenda Gray serving as the first female president and CEO at the Medical Research Council. And we have Professor Helen Rees, who is now a leading world, not South African, global researcher on children and HIV. These are South African women leading in science and technology innovation. We have many other women scientists leading key research initiatives in astronomy sciences, in information communication technology research, especially big data research, and women leading scientists in paleontology. So there's enormous progress that women are making in these fields. I think as South Africa, we need to say more about the importance of ensuring that young girls in particular have access to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education, because these fields are so important for young girls and women and are so important to economic and social progress in our country and worldwide. Education in mathematics, in engineering, in technology, in science provide a foundation for individual and societal development, as well as for economic empowerment. Thus, they are important disciplines to broaden access to. We need to do so much more in artificial intelligence, for example. We're talking about bioengineering in the treatment of tuberculosis, and there are so many other exciting developments, and we need to make sure that girls and women are part of this future. I believe that focused effort needs to be directed at increasing the access and success of women and girls in science, technology, and innovation. I've been really thrilled to see the leadership that South Africa is giving in the world. Currently, we are serving as the chair for the second time, because of how well we did the first time, as chair of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. And we are now sitting in New York during the 67th session of the Commission, which is being held until 17th of March. The theme of this session is an exciting one, given where women are today and where the challenges lie. The theme is innovation and technical change, education in the digital age for achieving gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. This theme was chosen by the United Nations because it recognizes the many challenges and barriers which exist in bridging the digital gender divide. We need to commit as women in leadership to doing everything possible to narrow this gender divide so that all women and girls are empowered in this fourth industrial revolution, and do not use it as a popular rhetoric, but as a real space in which they matter. Well, what about the private sector? We've seen progress there too. Women are owning major companies, and they're serving as CEOs and chairs of boards. They've also started their own digital startups, which are very successful, and many other innovative businesses, which I know as Forbes women, you are very familiar with. Across all the JSE-listed companies, we're not happy with the numbers. Women only make up 15% of the executives in JSE-listed companies, and 30% of non-executive directors. According to a new study by PwC, the percentage of CEOs in JSE-listed companies improved to 8% at the end of June 2022 from 5% in June 2021. So, great deal of work for all of us to do in changing the private sector in South Africa, and in particular, JSE-listed companies. What about universities, where we're seeing so much trouble and strife in the last 3 weeks? Our universities have been an important site for the empowerment of young women, with over 58% of university students being women across all racial groups in our country. Worryingly, though, women constitute only 15% of the 26 vice-chancellors in the country. And now that we've had the challenge with Professor Pakeng in the University of Cape Town, that percentage is going to go down even further. Out of 30 deputy vice-chancellors in our universities, only 12 are women. The University of Witwatersrand has been somewhat exemplary in that they've got a gender agenda, and they've made concerted efforts to transform their gender and racial profile of academics within the university. One of the cornerstones of their program, which is the Female Academic Leaders Fellowship, is the empowerment of Black and colored African women academic scholars. Other universities are beginning to make similar efforts, and we, as empowered women, should support universities to do even more in this regard, because presence of women in the knowledge space is vital. If you don't have women as leading knowledge workers, then young women will grow up to believe that they cannot be knowledge creators. So it's vital that they are actually present as leaders in knowledge institutions. One of the favorite areas that I like to look at is that of women in the legal profession, because again, this is such an influential and important sector. We know that women judges, magistrates, lawyers, prosecutors, and other judicial officers can play a really important role in helping us to achieve gender equality. In particular, they can support us in our battle against gender-based violence in this country. During the inaugural International Day of Women Judges on the 10th of March last year, the United Nations speaker stated the following: that the representation of women in the judiciary is significant for many reasons. In addition to ensuring that the legal system is developed with all of society in mind, it also inspires the next generation of female judges and motivates them to achieve their goals. Well, I don't know which aspect of looking at female judges will influence you. Maybe it's the elegant black gown, or it is the white wig, but be impressed nevertheless. This outcome of a significant presence of women leaders in the judicial field is possible and positive if the jurisprudence and the precedents that they set clearly reflect an empowerment ambition. And it is us who would urge them in that direction. We have Justice Maya, our recently appointed Deputy Chief Justice of the Constitutional Court, and she leads members of the judiciary who are female in the South African chapter of the International Association of Women Judges. She and many other judges now have the place and power to influence women's protection and to influence gender equality and empowerment measures and laws. They also have unmatched potential to positively change the plight of women, not just from the basis of equal presence of women on the bench, but also with regard to shaping what my former colleague, the late Dr. Freddie Jurwala, used to call to shaping a refreshed discourse of law that affirms women. Well, all of these are welcome achievements and possibilities, and yet, despite my positive sentiment, there exists in our country and worldwide terrible levels of gender inequality and brutal repression of women and girls, not just here, but unfortunately worldwide. We know that our own president has described gender-based violence and femicide as a pandemic. During the most recent African Union Summit, our leaders committed in February to give dedicated attention to advancing programs in support of women's development. They launched a program directed at seeking to eradicate gender-based violence and toxic masculinity on our continent, and agreed as leaders, which included President Ramaphosa, President Akufo-Addo of Ghana, President Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo, President Kagame of Rwanda, that together they will form what they called a circle of champions of positive masculinity and of battling gender-based violence. And this program was adopted in February this year, and we hope that they will make an impact on changing practice and attitude on our continent. I believe very firmly that our country, South Africa, has the opportunity to make a real impact on achieving gender equality through the current leadership we have in the Committee of the UN on the Status of Women, which we've been honored to chair on behalf of the Africa Group at the United Nations. We also have an opportunity to make a difference through the work we do as the executive, members of parliament, and members of civil society in advancing the objectives of the Global Generation Equality Action Programme and the working groups that we have committed to lead as South Africa. I also believe that organizations and events such as these, led by Forbes Africa, are playing a vital role in empowering women and in presenting women in a positive public image, which we don't often see. I don't know if you sometimes see how women are depicted in media. I always wonder, how did this newspaper find the ugliest picture of me? But this is how we are reflected. Even when I'm not angry, the angriest picture is shown. So never will I be shown in a dress that is elegant or smiling. I always have to look angry because women are ugly if they are powerful. So we need to change this image of women. And I think publications such as those that are produced by Forbes Africa are very important in changing this perspective of women. I also believe that media and communication tools are significant in supporting our drive for presenting women in another characterization, because they profile and can profile equality, they can provide knowledge resources to our communities to indicate the advances we are making in the gender agenda. So I'm also going to conclude by just mentioning to you one of the areas in which I believe there's tremendous opportunity for women. Our government has decided that it would activate public and private sector supply chains to ensure that South Africa's preferential procurement directs itself toward gender equality goals. It has agreed that 40% of government procurement will come from women-owned businesses, and that this must become a reality. I believe that public procurement and private sector procurement are critical elements that have the potential to grow women-owned businesses, which, all of you know, attract less than 3% of global procurement, according to a recent UN report. This gap of a very low access to procurement opportunities again creates an opportunity for us to pursue gender equality through ensuring there are ethical supply chains which enable our country's business women to achieve positive economic outcomes through receiving positive contracts from the public and private sector. We fully support procurement access on a gender equality basis as a key action area of the Generation Equality Forum's action coalition groups. I believe that the equality of access to business opportunity is really an important link to the objectives that the Forbes Women Africa holds. I urge you to look at positive action and what you can do to achieve it. Indeed, there are many problems, but there are also amazing opportunities that all of us can use. And the developments we've enjoyed in 29 years of democracy have provided what I believe is a useful foundation from which all of you can achieve even greater progress. And I thank you for listening to me.